All right, let's jump right in. If you've been feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk about generative AI and what it means for the legal world, well, you're not alone,
Definitely not.
especially after digging into chapters 6 through 9.
Yeah.
Those were dense.
They were packed.
So think of this deep dive as your cheat sheet, your survival guide.
Absolutely.
We're going to cut through the noise and pull out those must-know insights, connect the dots so you can really see the big picture, without getting lost in the weeds.
Exactly. That's the goal here.
So we're talking prompt engineering, the impact of AI on how you actually practice law, the ethical and regulatory stuff you absolutely have to be on top of,
Can't forget about that.
and even how this tech could completely change who gets access to justice.
Big implications there.
Huge.
Yeah.
So consider this your guided tour through your new AI toolkit, basically.
Your crash course.
Right. Ready to get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, so chapter 6, that was all about prompt engineering and RAG. Now, for those who might have skimmed that chapter,
Or maybe need a quick refresher.
exactly, what's the core idea there? What's the big,
The big takeaway. Well, the big idea is that getting useful, accurate information out of these AI systems.
and I mean really useful, like stuff you could actually use in your practice.
Right. It's not just about typing in a question and hoping for the best.
It's not magic.
Not yet, at least. It's about learning how to effectively communicate with AI.
Like you're speaking its language.
In a way, yeah. And that's where prompt engineering comes in.
Okay, so prompt engineering. Break that down for me.
It's essentially the art of crafting those questions, those prompts that guide the AI to generate the exact output you're looking for.
So it's not just about asking a question, it's about asking the right question in the right way.
Exactly. And the chapter also introduces really important technique called retrieval augmented generation.
Or RAG.
RAG, right? Think of it like giving the AI a set of reliable resources to draw from.
So instead of just relying on whatever it was trained on, which could be outdated or biased or...
Who knows?
Right, our rig makes sure his answers are grounded in real-world, verifiable information.
Exactly. It's like giving it a legal library to reference.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Instead of letting it just make stuff up.
So can you give me an example of like a bad prompt versus a good prompt? Just,
Sure. So imagine you're a lawyer and you need to get a quick overview of contract law.
pretty broad topic.
Very broad. So a naive prompt might be, write a summary of contract law.
Okay, and what would happen there?
You'd probably get something very general, very high level, maybe even some stuff that's not relevant to your jurisdiction.
Not very helpful.
Not really. Now, an informed prompt, a well-crafted prompt, might look something like this. Write a one-page summary of California contract law, focusing specifically on the element of consideration, and make it understandable for someone who's never studied law before.
So you're giving it the specifics.
Yeah.
Location, the exact legal concept you're interested in, the desired length.
And even who you're writing it for.
So the AI knows how to tailor its language.
Exactly. And that's the difference between getting a generic, useless response and getting something that's actually valuable to you.
And that example kind of ties into that garbage in, garbage out principle.
Well, absolutely. That's a key takeaway from the chapter.
Right. If you feed the AI a vague or poorly worded prompt.
You're going to get vague, potentially inaccurate results.
So it's on us to ask the right questions, to really think about what we want the AI to do.
It emphasizes that we can't just treat AI like some sort of all-knowing oracle that spits out perfect answers.
It's more like a very powerful tool that needs to be wielded correctly,
Right. It's like having a super-powered research assistant.
but one that needs clear instructions.
Absolutely. You got to be specific. You got to be clear about your goals.
And you got to double check its work.
Always double check. It's a collaboration, not a replacement.
Right. Now, Chapter 6 also gave us some pretty handy frameworks for crafting those prompts, which
Yeah.
I thought was helpful.
Yeah, those were good.
Because let's face it, sometimes it's hard to know where to even start.
It can be overwhelming.
So what were those frameworks again? Remind me.
So we had RTF, which stands for Role, Task, Format.
Simple but effective.
Absolutely. It's your basic prompt structure. Your role, your task is to task. Produce your answer in format.
So, like, you are a legal historian. Your task is to explain the origins of the Miranda rights. Produce your answer as a short blog post.
Exactly. It gives the AI clear parameters to work within.
And then we had RISN.
Right, which is a bit more involved.
Stands for role, instructions, steps, end goal, narrowing.
It's like giving the AI a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, like breaking down a complex task into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Especially helpful for those really involved legal questions.
Makes sense. And then there was craft.
Context, role, action, format, target audience.
Now, I like that one because it really forces you to think about who's going to be reading or using the AI's output.
That context is so important.
Totally. Like, are you writing for a judge? A client? A colleague?
It changes the tone, the level of detail, everything.
And speaking of tailoring the output, the chapter also touched on some of those more advanced techniques like metaprompting and iterative refinement.
Right, those are getting into some next level stuff.
So metaprompting is basically using AI to help you write better prompts.
Which sounds a bit crazy, but it can be super effective.
And then iterative refinement is the idea of like testing and tweaking your prompts over multiple rounds to get the best possible results.
It's like a feedback loop where you're constantly honing in on the perfect prompt.
And then there was bootstrapping, which is where you use different AI models for different parts of a task.
Like a chain of AI working together.
Yeah, kind of wild.
Yeah.
It shows that our interactions with AI are getting more sophisticated.
Definitely more nuanced. It's becoming less about giving commands and more about having a conversation.
Right. It's like we're training each other.
In a way, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about prompts, but what about RAG? You mentioned it earlier, Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Right. So RAG is all about grounding the AI's responses in reliable external sources.
And this feels like it's especially crucial for legal work, where accuracy is paramount.
Absolutely. We can't have AI making stuff up when people's lives and livelihoods are at stake.
So how does RAG actually work, like technically?
Okay, so instead of just relying on its internal knowledge base, which is basically everything it's been trained on.
Which could be outdated, right?
Right. RAG allows the AI to access and pull information from external documents.
So they could be case law, statutes, legal articles, internal firm memos, anything that's relevant.
Exactly. And it uses that real-time information to inform its answers.
So it's not just making educated guesses. It's actually basing its responses on solid, up-to-date evidence.
Precisely. It's like having a research assistant who can instantly pull up any document you need.
I mean, that's a game changer for legal research.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. You need to know the latest ruling on a particular issue. RAG can pull up that decision and summarize it for you, right then and there.
No more spending hours digging through databases.
Right. And the chapter made a distinction between basic RAG, which is just pulling in relevant text, and enhanced RAG, which is more sophisticated.
But what's the difference?
Enhanced RAG can actually refine your initial query to find even more relevant sources.
Oh, interesting.
It can also rank those sources by relevance and filter out irrelevant information so you're not bombarded with noise.
So it's like having a really smart filter on top of all that information.
Exactly. And for lawyers, this has huge implications.
I bet. Fewer of those AI hallucinations where it makes stuff up.
Which is crucial for maintaining credibility.
Right. Access to the most current information, which is essential in a field that's constantly evolving.
And practical applications in so many areas. Legal research, e-discovery, even client onboarding.
So RAG basically transforms AI from a potentially risky tool in law to a much more dependable partner.
A partner you can trust to give you accurate, up-to-date information.
Okay, so big takeaways from Chapter 6 for our listeners. Master the art of prompt engineering. Treat AI like an assistant that needs your expert oversight.
Not a replacement.
Right, and RAG is non-negotiable for any legal task, where getting it right truly matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, Chapter 7 shifts gears a bit, right? It's less about the technical side of AI and more about how it's actually changing the way law is practiced, how firms operate.
It's about the real-world impact on the legal profession.
Exactly. So Chapter 7, the impact of AI on the business and practice of law. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But it gets to the heart of how this tech is shaking things up for everyone, from junior associates to senior partners to clients themselves.
It's a real paradigm shift.
So let's break it down. What are some of the key ways AI is already changing how legal work gets done?
The most obvious is automation.
Right. AI taking over those tasks that used to eat up hours of a lawyer's time.
Those repetitive, often tedious tasks.
Like legal research, document drafting, contract review.
Due diligence, all those things that are necessary, but not necessarily the most stimulating part of being a lawyer.
Exactly. And this automation has the potential to free up lawyers to focus on more strategic, higher-level work.
The stuff that requires human judgment, creativity, empathy.
The stuff that AI, at least for now, can't replicate.
Right. And this shift is impacting everyone in the legal field.
So how are roles changing? What does this mean for, say, a junior associate just starting out?
Well, they might find themselves doing less of that initial grunt work, like reviewing hundreds of documents for a discovery request.
Which, let's face it, nobody loves doing.
And instead, they might be tasked with analyzing the key findings from that AI-powered review, or maybe even helping to develop the strategy for using AI in the first place.
So they're getting exposed to more complex, more interesting work earlier in their careers.
Exactly. It's a chance to develop those higher-level skills much faster.
And for more senior lawyers, what does this mean?
It could mean less time spent managing those junior associates on those routine tasks.
And more time for big picture thinking, client relationships, developing new business.
Right. It's about leveraging AI to become more efficient, more strategic.
And even support staff roles are evolving.
Definitely. We're seeing the emergence of new roles like legal technologist or AI specialists.
People who understand both the legal and the technical sides of things.
People who can bridge that gap and help firms implement AI effectively.
Now, all this automation, it's also putting pressure on the traditional billable hour model.
Right, absolutely. If AI can do something in a fraction of the time it takes a human lawyer, clients are going to start questioning those hourly rates.
They're going to want to see that efficiency reflected in their bills.
Right, and that's leading to a rise in alternative fee arrangements, things like flat fees or value-based billing.
Where the focus is on the outcome, not just the hours spent.
And we're also seeing the emergence of productized legal services.
What does that mean?
It's basically where firms develop AI-powered tools, like an AI that can analyze standard contracts and then offer those tools as subscriptions.
So it's less about bespoke legal advice and more about providing scalable solutions.
Exactly. It's a new way of thinking about how legal services are delivered.
And then Chapter 7 introduced this interesting concept called Jevons paradox.
Which is a bit counterintuitive.
Definitely. The idea is that even though AI makes some legal tasks cheaper and faster, it could actually lead to an increase in overall demand for legal services.
Because it makes those services more accessible to a wider range of people.
So it's like with ATMs. ATMs made it easier and cheaper to access cash, but it didn't lead to fewer bank branches.
In fact, it led to more bank branches and more jobs in the banking sector.
So the same thing can happen in law. More people might seek legal help if it becomes more affordable and efficient.
It's a fascinating idea.
And it also highlights how AI is changing client expectations.
Oh, absolutely. Clients are becoming more tech-savvy.
They're used to instant gratification, personalized experiences.
They want faster turnaround times, more predictable pricing, seamless integration with their own systems.
And they expect their lawyers to keep up.
They want to know that their lawyers are using the best tools available to serve their needs.
So for those of you listening who are maybe feeling a little apprehensive about all this,
Maybe even a little intimidated.
the message is clear. Get comfortable with this technology. It's not going away.
Embrace it. Learn how to use it to your advantage.
And focus on developing those uniquely human skills that AI can't replicate. Empathy, creativity, strategic thinking.
Those are the skills that will set you apart in this new legal landscape.
So, Chapter 7, AI is changing the economics of law firms. It's automating routine tasks, it's leading to new ways of billing for services, and it's raising client expectations.
And the key is to be adaptable, to embrace the change.
All right, so AI is changing how law is practiced, how it's billed, but what about the ethical implications?
Right, that's a huge piece of the puzzle.
And that's where Chapter 8 comes in. Ethical and regulatory implications of AI in law.
This is crucial for every lawyer, no matter what area they practice in.
It's about ensuring that we're using this powerful technology responsibly, ethically.
And in a way that upholds the integrity of the legal profession.
Exactly. So what are some of the key ethical challenges that AI raises for lawyers?
Well, one of the big ones is the risk of those AI hallucinations we talked about earlier.
Where the AI makes stuff up.
Exactly. And in law, that can have serious consequences.
Imagine citing a case that doesn't exist, or relying on a legal argument that's completely fabricated.
It could damage your credibility, harm your client's case.
And even lead to disciplinary action.
It's a huge ethical concern. And then there's the issue of client confidentiality.
Right. How do we ensure that we're protecting sensitive client data when we're using AI tools?
Especially if those tools are cloud-based, or if we're sharing data with third-party vendors.
And then there's the unauthorized practice of law.
UPL.
Right, UPL. So like if an AI chatbot starts giving specific legal advice without a lawyer's supervision,
That's a major no-no.
it could be construed as practicing law without a license.
Which has serious legal and ethical ramifications.
And then there's the issue of bias.
Right. AI models are only as good as the data they're trained on.
So if that data is biased, the AI's outputs will be biased too.
And that can lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes, especially in areas like criminal justice.
Oh, lots of ethical challenges to grapple with. And the legal system is starting to respond, right?
Definitely. We're seeing courts requiring lawyers to disclose if they used AI in drafting filings.
And to certify that the citations are accurate.
It's a sign that the courts are taking this seriously.
And there have already been some high-profile cases where lawyers got into trouble for submitting AI-generated work with fake citations.
The Mata v. Avianca case and the Park v. Kim case are prime examples.
Those should serve as a wake-up call for every lawyer.
It's a reminder that you are ultimately responsible for the work you submit, even if an AI helped you create it.
So what are some practical steps that lawyers can take to mitigate these risks?
Well, the first is diligence. Always double-check AI-generated work.
Don't just take it at face value.
Use reputable legal databases to verify citations, cross-reference information, use your own legal judgment.
And when it comes to client data, be extra cautious.
Use encryption, explore private AI solutions, work with vendors who prioritize data security.
And firms need to establish clear policies on the use of AI.
Guidelines for when it's appropriate to use AI, how to use it ethically, how to protect client data.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely. Be upfront with your clients about how you're using AI. Get their informed consent.
And be prepared to explain your process to the court if necessary.
So Chapter 8 really boils down to this. Your ethical obligations don't disappear just because you're using AI.
In fact, they become even more important.
Be diligent, be transparent, be accountable.
Right, so we've talked about how AI is changing the practice of law, the ethical considerations. Now, let's shift gears and talk about how this technology could actually be used to expand access to justice.
This is where AI has the potential to make a truly positive impact.
Because right now, there's a huge justice gap, right? Millions of people can't afford legal representation.
And legal aid organizations are overwhelmed.
They're understaffed, underfunded, and the need is just immense.
And that's where AI comes in,
It has the potential to be a real game changer.
to level the playing field.
Exactly. So how can AI help bridge this justice gap?
Well, one way is through automation. AI can automate many of the tasks that legal aid lawyers currently spend hours on.
Like drafting basic legal documents, filling out forms, providing basic legal information.
Exactly. And that frees up those lawyers to focus on the more complex cases, the ones that require human expertise.
So they can help more people.
Exactly. It's about increasing efficiency and reach.
And AI can also help empower people to navigate the legal system on their own.
Through tools like chatbots, legal guides, self-help websites,
Things that provide basic information and guidance in plain language.
so people can understand their rights and options.
And Chapter 9 highlighted some really inspiring real-world examples of AI being used for good in this way,
Like Legal Aid of North Carolina's virtual assistant, LIA.
which helps people with things like housing issues, family law, domestic violence.
It can even generate legal forms and handle multiple languages.
It's really impressive.
And then there's the Nevada courts. They're using AI-powered self-help kiosks in libraries.
So people can access basic legal information and services without having to go to a lawyer's office.
Which can be intimidating and expensive.
And then there's Rennie, a chatbot that helps tenants in Chicago understand their rights in rent disputes.
It can even help them draft eviction defense letters.
These are just a few examples of how AI is already being used to expand access to justice.
And the potential is huge.
But, of course, there are also some challenges and considerations,
Definitely. We need to make sure that these tools are accessible to everyone.
especially those who might not have strong tech skills or reliable internet access.
We also need to be careful about AI giving legal advice.
It should be providing information, not making legal recommendations.
And data security is paramount, especially when dealing with vulnerable populations.
So while AI isn't a silver bullet,
It's not going to solve all the problems of the justice gap overnight.
it has the potential to make a real difference.
To help level the playing field and make the legal system more accessible to everyone.
So Chapter 9, a message of hope, but also a call for responsible development and implementation.
It's about using this powerful technology for good.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how to use AI effectively, how it's changing the business of law, the ethical considerations.
And its potential to make justice more accessible.
And looking across these 4 chapters, some really important themes emerge, some connections.
Yeah, these themes are interwoven throughout.
So one big theme is the importance of human oversight and responsibility.
AI is a tool, a powerful tool, but it's still just a tool.
It's not a replacement for human judgment, for ethical decision-making.
We need to be in the driver's seat, guiding the technology, ensuring it's used for good.
And then there's the tension between efficiency and ethical diligence.
Right. AI can make us more efficient, but it also introduces new ethical challenges.
We need to be mindful of those challenges. We need to have safeguards in place. We can't just blindly chase efficiency at the expense of our ethical obligations.
Exactly. And then there's the evolving regulatory landscape.
The courts are starting to pay attention. They're starting to issue rules and guidelines around the use of AI.
And that's only going to continue.
So we need to stay informed. We need to be proactive. And then there's the question of access and inclusivity.
Will AI exacerbate existing inequalities, or will it help level the playing field?
It has the potential to do both.
And it depends on how we develop and implement it.
Do we make it accessible to everyone, or do we allow it to become a tool for the privileged few?
It's a critical question.
And then there's the need for interdisciplinary skills.
Lawyers of the future will need to be tech savvy.
They'll need to understand how AI works, how to use it effectively, how to mitigate its risks.
It's no longer enough to just be a good lawyer. You need to be a good lawyer who also understands technology.
So after this deep dive, you should have a solid foundation in how to work with AI, its impact on the legal profession, the ethical considerations.
And its potential to transform access to justice.
It all comes down to this question. How can we, as current and future legal professionals, ethically and effectively harness the power of this technology?
How can we use it to better serve our clients, to advance justice, to thrive in this rapidly evolving legal landscape?
Now, to help you really internalize these concepts, let's consider some specific scenarios, some thought experiments.
Let's put this knowledge into practice.
So imagine you're tasked with using AI to draft a comprehensive memo on a newly enacted environmental regulation.
The complex piece of legislation.
What specific information and instructions would you include in your prompt to ensure that the AI generates an accurate, thorough, and relevant memo?
What are the key elements you need to highlight? What are the potential pitfalls you need to avoid?
Now let's shift gears. Imagine you're running a mid-sized law firm, and you're seeing more and more routine tasks being automated by AI.
Contract review, discovery, legal research.
How does that impact your strategy for recruiting and developing junior associates?
Do you still need as many junior lawyers? What skills should you be looking for?
How do you train them to work effectively in this new environment?
Now, for a real ethical dilemma. You discover that your firm's fancy AI-powered legal research tool has a tendency to hallucinate citations. It's occasionally making up case law.
Yikes.
What steps do you take to create a verification workflow? How do you ensure that those fake citations don't end up in court filings?
How do you balance the efficiency of the tool with the need for accuracy and ethical compliance?
Now, let's talk access to justice. You're on the board of a legal aid organization that's just received a big grant to invest in AI technology.
Exciting opportunity.
What concrete steps do you take to ensure that this investment actually leads to tangible improvements in client outcomes?
How do you make sure it doesn't just become another layer of bureaucracy?
How do you ensure that the technology is accessible to the people you serve?
Now, let's talk bias. You're involved in developing an AI tool to assist judges in making sentencing recommendations.
A sensitive and high-stakes area.
You start to notice that the tool is recommending harsher sentences for defendants from certain demographic groups.
A clear sign of bias.
What do? How do you investigate the source of the bias? How do you correct it?
How do you ensure that the tool is fair and impartial?
And finally, a real head-scratcher. Where do you draw the line between an AI chatbot providing permissible legal information and impermissible legal advice?
This is a tricky one.
How do you design a chatbot that can help people understand their legal options without crossing the line into unauthorized practice of law?
How do you balance access to information with the need to protect the public from unqualified legal advice?
Take some time to really ponder these scenarios, to discuss them with your colleagues.
They're designed to make you think critically about the real-world implications of AI and law.
So to wrap up, the message of this deep dive is clear. AI is transforming the legal landscape, and we need to be prepared.
We need to be proactive. We need to be ethical. We need to be innovative.
AI is a powerful tool, and it's up to us to use it wisely.
To use it to improve the legal system, to expand access to justice, to build a more equitable future.
As AI continues to evolve, your ability to understand its potential and its risks will shape not only your own career, but the future of the legal profession itself.
So think about it. How will you use this technology to make a difference?
What role will you play in this exciting and sometimes daunting new era of law?
The future is in your hands.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time,
Keep learning
keep exploring.
and then keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI in law.